warning or something like that. But I'm going to turn my camera off for now. I'm going to let Mark take over and go through the Payroll demo. From there, Mark's going to step away. He's going to sort of sign off at about 10 past, 10, and then we'll move on to the international side of things. Also, we can cover any more UK questions in that period, and then we'll start going to the international side where my colleague Jenna's going to join us as well and answer some questions on that side, if that's okay.
Perfect.
Great,
No problem.
thank you.
Yeah.
There you go, Mark. All yours.
Okay. Right. Morning, guys. How you doing? You all right?
Hey,
Can you see-
Mark. I think we've
Okay.
worked
Morning,
together
Mark.
Yes, good
before
morning.
in the past.
Sorry.
I think we've worked together before in the past. You came to Optimus with the P11D, and then we grabbed you for
Hello.
reports.
Oh, okay. Yes. Hello. You all right?
Hello. Yes, I've moved company. I'm now with Intrado, and hence the
okay.
reason why we're reaching out to you guys.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay. Sorry. Right. That's right. Okay. So you obviously Lucy. It is Lucy, isn't it? Yes, Lucy, isn't it? Yeah.
Lindsay,
So,
I'm the other
Lindsay,
one.
sorry, Lindsay. Yeah. Sorry.
Lucy was the Cockney one.
Right. So Lindsay. So it's obviously you know a bit about Payroll. Look, what I'll do, I'm going to give you an overview. Is there any areas in particular that you want to see?
I think Pratiba and Misha would like to see, the demo as you're going to show it. Obviously, I know a bit more about Payroll and things,
Yeah.
but if you can just, they've never seen it before, so go for
Okay.
it.
What I'll do, I'm going to give you a reasonably quick overview off the back of this small session. If you want a more detailed session, I'm more than happy to do that. Okay, so let me just show you this. So basically, we've got two icons here. One's the main Payroll icon, and one's our security area. So let me just log into the security area first. Okay, so let me just log into here like so. Oh, I can't spell. Hold on a sec. Sorry. Guys, and that's there like so. Right. Okay. Right. So within here, I can create all my different users, etc. and that in here. Okay. I can give them sort of what we call supervisor permissions, which is kind of like admin rights, if you like. And then these ones that aren't supervisors, I can actually give them different types of permissions. So within here, if I go to my menu groups, for example, for my HR user, for example, here, you've got these different options. See these little signs here, like no entry and bits like that. So if I right click, I can give people access to different areas of the system. I can give them read only access, read write access, or I can stop them going in there completely. Okay. How many payrolls do you guys have?
I believe we have 4 in the UK.
4
Is
in
that
the
right,
UK.
Pratiba? Or Misha, can you answer that one?
I believe it's 4, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So basically what you could do is we could create these different sort of groups of the people that have parts of this payrolls areas that people can see. And then if you have multiple payrolls, what you can do as well, if you wanted to, is you can, going on a set there, you can then say whether people are actually allowed to see them or not as well. So if there's certain payrolls that people can't see, you can actually hide them from their view. Okay, so you can create different user profiles. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take you in to Payroll here. Okay, and what we will do is just have a quick look here. So in any instance of Payroll, on any single install of Payroll, you can have up to 1,999 different payrolls. Okay, let me just modify this one quickly here. Sorry, I should have done this before I started. Oh, sorry, I restored my database back to start again. Right, okay, so within Payroll, I'll just give you an overview of the top area. Okay, so basically on the right hand side here, it will tell you the payroll that you're in. Okay, it will tell you the pay run status. This is a new payroll at the moment. So when I open up a payroll, it will tell me that what month the payroll is open for. So if I was running an April payroll, it would say pay run is open for payday on the 25th of April, for example. I won't talk about multiple posts. Number of people on the payroll, I've got 40 live people. On this payroll as it stands at the moment, I don't have any leavers. That's because it's just rolled over into a new tax year. But you get what we call archive leavers, which are leavers from a previous tax year. Okay, so that's there. It confirms the tax year that you're in, confirms your PAYE reference, and then you've got an audit log as well. So every keystroke in Payroll is audited. So if I just go down to the audit here, So for example here, if I go audit and view all, it will show me basically, if I just look for something here, so for example here at 13:31 on the 21st of October, this user changed this record and they've changed the pension join date. Okay, so you can see the record that was changed and what it was all changed from and to. So as you can see there, I've done some work on sort of pension reform and stuff there. Okay, if I come further down by employee, I might just be interested in this record that I'm sitting on here for Henry. It will show me all the recent changes that have been made for this. As you can see here, I've changed some of his rate stuff. I've changed his annual, I've put a new annual salary on there and stuff like that. That's for an individual record that I'm sitting on there. I can also audit via a date range. So I can obviously over a period of time. I can audit by file. So if we look at the top here, each one of these areas is what we would call a file. So I can actually audit by those individual files. So I can interrogate those areas in their own right. So if I wanted to have a look who's been making changes in my sort of system configuration area, I could go in there and have a look and it will tell me all of those changes that I've made in that high level. I could go by user. So for example, I want to see what a specific user's done. I can tap that username in there and that would allow me to audit by an individual user. And last but not least, by source. There are 6 different ways of getting things into Payroll. Okay, the first one is normal entry. So I want to look at stuff that's been keyed into the system. Import. Now I believe, do you want to hook up with an HR system?
Yeah, we're looking at Oracle to link to. So not in the short term, I think. For the time being, I think what Lindsay's plan is to have Oracle produce something that can then go to the templated spreadsheet we've got, and they'll import that into Payroll. But long term, they are looking to export from Oracle and push that straight into Payroll.
Yeah. So if we were to do that, then obviously we could map that, and obviously we could audit that then by import there as well. Calculation formulas. Lindsay, when I was with you at Optimas, we wrote a couple of calculation formulas. So you can write sort of nice niche little formulas and that within the Payroll software to calculate various things. We've got dynamic lists with some HR softwares. HMRC downloads the stuff that we're downloading directly from HMRC. And last but not least, our one-click processing, which is our auto-enrollment piece. Okay, so there's all these different areas that you can audit on. So everything that you do in Payroll is audited. Over here, we will concentrate mainly on this area down here, okay, so basically system setup, I'll come back to in a sec. We will go through some of that. So that's where you do like all your system build. The employee files is where you store all your core employee information, names, addresses, salaries, all that kind of stuff. The pay run is where we physically open the pay run and get people paid. Import export, so you can write yourself import routines to load data. Again, like we talked about, if you want to map up to a third-party HR system, we can write ourselves little routines from there. The report writer, you can import stuff in. Obviously, you can report write stuff out as well, and you can do some nice little report writes out of there. Pay history within Payroll. Every time that your payroll is updated, you will get a pay slip that has been appended to pay history. Okay. I haven't got any sitting in there at the moment, but basically when you update your payroll, your pay history will naturally update as well. Year end, self-explanatory. That's where we do our year end clear downs, and you've got a little wizard that you can work through to assist you with your year end clear downs. We've got what we've talked about, audit, absence module. So you can write yourself company absence rules and stuff like that. So if you've got an occupational sick pay scheme, you can write that within Payroll and manage your allowances, etc., and pay it within Payroll. System utilities, that's just where we have some diagnostic tools and that, and so sometimes we may sort of rebuild index. There's some sort of indexing stuff and that in there that we would sometimes get clients to build under guidance from the help desk. Expenses, do you have any P11Ds in that you want to be running out of Payroll at all? No?
Sorry.
No.
We do have P11D software that I had access to yesterday, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we've spoken about that, Dave. That's something that we can have from free because Mark, you gave me the training on that only a couple of months ago. So
yeah. So obviously, Lindsay, you've seen the P11D module and how it kind of hangs together about setting up your cars and setting up your various expenses, and then obviously producing your P11Ds, and obviously transmitting them to HMRC through the P11D module as well. Yeah. Okay. So look, let's come back. Let's go through to system setup here. So for example, in here, this is where we would build our payroll. So for system setup here, within here, we would restore all of our, we would build all of our company details, names, tax office details, bank account information. And we would go through and sort of build different pay elements, etc. So identify what pay elements that you have within a system. Very easy to add elements on in Payroll. Click your orange plus through here. You can give it a longer description if you want to. So you could tell you whether your elements are taxable and NIable, non-taxable, non-NIable, etc. There, whether there's 5 different types of element you can use, whether it's a cash amount, you can base it on a specific rate. So for example, if I went for a rate entered, if I was, for example, a caretaker maybe, and there was call outs, and those call outs were £20 a time, I can dictate the rate that those will be paid at. I can do things on an hourly base rate, and as a consequence of that, I can do multipliers, offset rates, etc. I can base them on an overtime rate. Generally, that's the same as the hourly rate, and then like a daily base rate. So if I wanted an element, say something like unpaid sick or whatever there, I could do a multiplier of -1 or something like that, and that would allow me to sort of reduce people's pay by their daily base rate. Okay, we have pay deductions as well. So within the deductions here, all your different deductions. So for example, union, give as you earn, again, easy, very easy to set up. Orange plus, fill out your boxes. Basically, I will show you sort of ones here that's already been set up. So like this union one's been set up here. The other thing that you can do with your deductions and that as well is actually pay them straight out to the third party too. Okay, so if you set up the sort code and account number, etc., as part of your back submission each period, we can actually include your deductions and that within there. Let's just okay to that for a sec there. If we come through here, different pay slip types. So what sort of pay slip media are you looking to use?
I would be interested in emailing them out, and then maybe potentially the portal. But I'm kind of at the moment they have to go to one place for one portal, one place for another. Whereas I think like email just seems to be the most easiest direct route.
Okay, so different types of payslip media. Obviously, we've got the good old faithful printed stationery that most people don't use anymore. So this second type here is a PDF-e payslip. So basically, we set this up. What we would do is set up our email portal that is going to pass through, say, our mail server details. Set up it as a PDF-e payslip, and then basically what will happen is on the employee record. I'll just show you the employee record quickly there. You would attach the relevant payslip type to, so if it was a PDF-e payslip there, I would attach that type there. As long as I've got the email address in there, and I would tap a password in there, and basically whenever we emailed our payslips, it would automatically obviously email out to the employee, and they would obviously need to know that password to open up their payslip. Most people tend to use the NI number as password in the first instance because it's unique. So yeah, so different payslip types, and then obviously we got our portal payslip. So there is the FMP payslip portal, or we can upload to third-party payslip portals, and we also have the mobile phone app as well that you can push on. So you can push your payslips up into the cloud, and you can access your payslip via your mobile device as well if you so wish to. Okay. Any questions on any of that so far? No.
None from me at the moment.
No. Okay, so then we've got our departmental details. So really important part of the setup is obviously your costing structure. So in this example here, I've set up sort of different regions. So I've obviously got Wales. We've got sort of the sort of the Midlands, the East Midlands, and then we've got like the West Midlands. and then the Southwest, for example, there. Yeah, so I've got all these different groups of departments. I can create sort of journal subcodes and bits like that. And then I've got sort of hierarchies in here as well. So I've grouped them together further up the food chain and that as well. So in the first instance, when we work with Payroll, it's really crucial that we identify sort of your costing structure that you want to pull out the back of it. Because obviously what we don't want to do is build a payroll system and then discover that you can't journal it or report as you want to on it. So this sort of structure set up here is a really critical part of it. Okay. So I'll jump through some of this. Our reports and that here. So we have a number of pay run reports. We have in the region of about 60 standard reports. So as you see here, these reports all come in the software as standard. Lots and lots of different types of reporting that you can do. So these are all in here. And you can run those. I always recommend to my clients that they run those first time and then work out what ones they do or don't want. Most people probably end up with a selection of 10 or 12 different reports. These exception reports here are quite useful for to help you with your payroll checking. Here we can do sort of discrepancies. So I always look sort of imagine 100% being in the middle. And I always look for sort of 20% fluctuations between previous periods. So it allows you to check sort of gross pay, net pay in comparison with previous periods. Also down here, it's always good to look at things like bank account changes, details on people that have left, new starter information, salary changes, warnings. So you can check all that back and it just helps assist you with sort of the checking of your payroll. So there are so many reports that you can run out of here. Okay. And then over here as well, we'll just go run through some of these, the pension definitions. So you've got different types of pension that you can set up. You can have multiple pensions on the payroll. So for example, here I've got a pension taken a salary sacrifice pension on here. In this scheme here, I've dictated to it that it's a fixed 5% for the employee and the employer and the employee rate I can choose at employee level. So if I was to add that scheme on to an employee over here, he says trying to find a pension tab, there we go there. If I was to add that scheme onto there, it will automatically load with that 5%, and then I can dictate what percentage the employee would be paying at employee level. Okay, so if I just go back into system setup there. So you could have multiple types of pension schemes. So obviously GPP schemes, salary related schemes. So obviously just identify those. How many schemes do you have? Do you know? Do you have many schemes or?
I'm not too sure at this moment in time. Sorry,
Okay.
Mark.
That's all right. No, that's fine.
I started with the company and so did Michelle last Monday.
Oh, right. Okay, fair enough. Okay, fair enough. Well, we'll go on a voyage of discovery with it, and that's fine. That's okay. That's all right. Okay, so let's close that off there.
But we do have, just to update you, we do have several kinds of, and I think that was one of the challenges that our current vendor had.
Right. Okay. So yeah. So look, you can set those up, and then you obviously allocate those at the relevant employee levels, basically. So yeah. So we can handle kind of multiple pension schemes. Yeah. Okay. So further down here, holiday payrolls. Now, do you have any holiday pay schemes or anything, you know, like enhanced holiday pay schemes that you would want to pay people?
Yes, we do. Yes.
Yeah. So within here, there's obviously with the changes of the rules, etc., and that now as well, is it going to be affected by like the 52-week rule?
No, I think this is something we looked at the other day, Misha, wasn't it, with Prasanna, and it's looking back at the previous month's gross pay, I believe, and then we're kind of we got some spreadsheets on it, Mark. We can.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Okay. Yeah. Look, obviously over the last year or two, there's been a sort of myriad of different sort of ways of calculating holiday now, and obviously it's about, you know, if you work regular overtime, earn a regular commission and stuff, and enhancing the holiday pay if you're off, basically. So we have a whole range of schemes that we could accommodate the clients to allow them to calculate that out automatically. Okay. Actually, I think last time I was with you, Lindsay, I did some work. I did exactly that for you on one of your payrolls, didn't I? I think so, which was set up a scheme to calculate. So
That's right. I know you had 15 schemes, and for whatever reason, the scheme Lucy needed just wasn't there. So that's when we grabbed you and kind of said, "Can you do this?" And I think you did it in like 2 hours for us.
and
Which was
apparently
amazing.
it worked as well. So that's all right. So I'll live with that.
Yes.
So,
Yes, she was very, very happy with that. Thank you.
Good. That's all right. Okay. So company sick pay schemes. Obviously, we can accommodate company sick pay schemes. And again, not just one. You can have multiple sick pay schemes in there. So inside here in this scheme here, I look at a rolling sickness year. You can do fixed years, fixed sickness years, calendar years, bits like that there. I've got 5 different service periods here: 0 to 6 months, 7 to 12, 13 to 36, etc. And then within here, I can tell you, I'm doing it with allowances in weeks, and it's band 1 is full pay, band 2 is half pay. So for the first 6 months, you're not entitled to any pay. After 12 months, it's 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 4 and 4, 8 and 8. So I can settle that up. And by attaching the scheme to the employee, that would allow, when you enter the absence into the absence calendar, it will allow you to, it will calculate out and pay accordingly. Okay. Likewise, we got company maternity pay schemes. So in this scheme here, I've just got one scheme set up. So in this scheme here, it's 6 weeks at full pay, 13 weeks at half pay, and then 20 weeks at just statutory FMP. Again, you can have multiple schemes. You can have different rules depending on lengths of service and stuff like that as well. So you could basically build those as you want them to work. Last but not least, in this bit here, we're going to show you the salary sacrifice stuff. So again, here we've got childcare vouchers. So again, I can set that up to do childcare, and I can pay those straight through the payroll if I want to as well to my vendor. Cycle to work. So the cycle to work scheme here, I could do this one as like a reducing balance. So what that allows me to do is obviously set up an annual value. So if it's £1,000, I'd set it up to take 83.33 a month for a year. If the employee leaves during that time, it will try and reclaim the balance out of their final pay slip as well. Okay. Now, look, that's a whistle-stop tour through system setup. Have you got any questions on that at all?
I have one in regards to the sickness.
Yeah.
So I've had a brief look at the information, and if we were to, at the moment, we get the information from HR, but obviously if that's something we wanted to put in the system and maybe cross-reference, would the system be able to add, I think it's 8 hours for every month an employee completes as an accumulation? And then be able to, anytime there's an absence, kind of look and say, yeah, there's 40 hours in the pot, you've had 30 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, that is a bit more of a
it's a bit
interesting.
Out there. I may be able to write something. There's not a standard scheme. I'm not going to pretend there is. Right. Okay.
Great.
There is a bit here about basing OSP on hours. But then generally what I would do is put a balance in. But that's not to say that you couldn't then write a formula in the background that says if you're in this month's pay run, add on 8 hours and take off anything that's been taken and restore my balance back. That would probably be done, but it wouldn't be out of the core system. It would have to be a specific calculation routine that was written
in the background of the system.
In the background of the system, yeah. It's not a standard scheme. It wouldn't necessarily. I could probably sort of drive it through here, but almost dictate the balance every period. Also, when you start managing OSP schemes in hours, you have to manage the SSP schemes completely separately because you can't define SSP in hours. Okay, no, that's true. Yeah. It's what constitutes a day. Is it 6 hours? Is it 12 hours? Yes, I think it's mainly 7.5, but I'm not too sure. That would be something we'd have to work with our HR team on to kind of see if we can get around that. It's a shame Holly's not on the call actually, because she'd be able to assist with that. But okay, we'll put a pin in that one. Yeah, it's not impossible, but it's not standard, if you like. It's not straightforward. Like, oh, you have 20 days within a 12-month period. And, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absence in hours is quite hard to handle. So yeah, that's fine. Okay. Right. Okay. So So I'm just going to give you a quick sort of look through here. So employee files is where kind of all the core employee data hangs together. So sort of names and addresses and stuff like that. So if I just go through here quickly, employee number, name, department, national insurance number, 4 points of reference. If I know the number of the next employee, I can just key it in. If I want to search on a name, if I put Smith in it, it will give me a drop down list and make me pick that employee. Even if there's only one with that surname, it will still make me pick it. The reason being, years ago, it used to just go to the first employee, and we had people used to key on the wrong record all the time. So it now makes you pick department number, national insurance. If I double click in there, it gives me a drop down in alphabetical order. If I double click in there, number order, etc., etc. So if I just click on a record here, obviously names, addresses, different payslip types, email addresses, dates of birth, date joined, obviously continuous employment dates. You can have a different service start date if you've tupied over from another company, maybe. Salary information here. So an example here, I've got the hours per week and the annual salary. Off of the back of that, it's calculated out what my hourly rate is, what my daily rate is. So where we looked at components earlier on, we can then ping different rates, etc. off of the back of that. Salary sacrifice. So if Jane here had, let's say, took a bike to work there or something like that, we could start up. We could start up that there, and we could say it's 83.34 a period, and it's £1,000, and that will stay on her record there, and that will take that every month until it gets to 0, when it would automatically stop. Absent stuff here. So this employee's is part of an FMP company sickness scheme here, and based on length of service, the entitlement is 16 weeks full pay, 16 weeks half pay. If they were part of a holiday scheme, I could attach them to the relevant holiday scheme. Tax and NI information, bank account details. I can pay monies to second bank accounts if I wanted to, like a fixed amount to a secondary account or a percentage in there, stuff like that there. I'll jump over some of these. The forms, like from HMRC, if we've got a new starter, maybe we would fill out our new starter statement. So if employee statement A, for example, I would do that. And Payroll would operate the relevant tax code. Pension information. So again, any pension schemes that people are members of would be based on this scheme here. Pension reform stuff, that's to do with our auto enrolment module. If we've got auto enrolment, how do you handle your auto enrolment at the moment?
That's a really good question. I think at the moment we are advised by HR,
Right.
But I'm not sure. So that's something I'm going to be paying close attention to when we do our first pay run this month.
Okay, because basically, yeah, obviously we got an auto enrolment module within Payroll. So if you wanted Payroll to assess people and that for you, it will do it. Okay. So
So here, as of now, we auto enroll on the 3rd month. And again,
Yep.
Lindsay is correct, it comes through the service delivery team. They need to fill a form and respond to us.
Okay, fine. Okay, so look, there are bits we can do in Payroll if you wanted to do it. And again, I guess as part of the process, that would be something that we would look at and obviously work out the best way of doing that for you. Okay, so in these components here, so for example, like a car allowance, if I put that in there, I can say that's £500 a month. Any permanent deductions. I've got loans and orders. So if I've got, like, I don't know, season ticket loan, for example, there, so I can set up a season ticket there like that for a moment. So if the loan was, again, let's go for £1,000 and it's 83.34 a month, and again that would set up and reduce through somebody's payslip over that 12-month period. Student loan stuff, postgraduate loan information, and then we start getting on to allocating people out to their various departments and sort of costings and bits like that there. So that's where we allocate people to their notes. You can write different notes on people's records if you want to hold information. And we can also do cost splitting as well. So if an employee works across more than one area, I can actually say I want to split their costs 50-50 across 2 different areas. Okay. So that's kind of like a quick run through the employee files. The pay run there is where we would then get on with the business of getting people paid. So if I just open up a pay run quickly here, if I just start a pay run up there, I really need to roll this forward a year at some point. Okay, to that there. So that will open up the pay run, and what that will do is bring in the people's salaries, etc. So once the pay run's open, obviously any car allowance that's paid there, etc. But one of the big things about pay run is it's an instant calculation as well. So within here, the pay run results there. So as soon as I've opened up my pay run, the net pay's been calculated there, okay? And as soon as I key in, so if I had some overtime to key in, let's say I had 20 hours overtime to key in there, that calculates and updates the net pay straight away. So there's no sort of calculation process to run. As soon as you key it, it's there, okay? Off the back of that, all my management reports and that are available straight away as well. So I can run all my reports at any point in time that I want. So that will run through. So all of my reports are there too instantly.
Okay, and when you run the payroll,
Yeah.
Lucy always said that she had to put all of the absence in first, any new starters and any change of salaries before she could start looking at overtime, those kind of things. Is that still the case?
No, not so.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, the recommended route is to try and do as much as you can before you open up the payroll. Okay, that's what we recommend, but it doesn't have to be done like that. Yeah. Okay. So my reports come up on the other screen. I'll move those over in a sec. So if I had a change to make now, so let's say I had a salary change that had come in after I'd opened up my payroll. Yeah. Okay. So let's just find anyone. Ian here. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go to my permanent data screen and see this here. So I'm going to change my. I'm going to go 010420019 there, and I'm going to change his salary to 50,000 there. Yeah. Okay. Now, if I do that, as I save that, it will say, do you want to put that in the pay run? And I say yes, and that will go into the pay run.
Okay, otherwise it would maybe go into next month.
Yes. So once you start making changes with an open pay run, you always get prompted for the question, do you want this to affect your current pay run?
Okay, so it's not going to crash the system or anything if...
No.
Okay. But the idea is to get all of the permanent data. So
yeah.
Any salary changes, any new starters, any leavers, but it's not essential. They can be added.
It's not an absolute showstopper, put it that way.
Okay.
It's not. And likewise as well, if you've got late new starters, there is an option in the pay run there. If you've added new starters on late, you can go pay run there. You can say bring new joiners into the pay run.
Okay, great. So if we have a last minute, somebody joins and we have to pay them, it's good to know.
Yeah, that was put on for one specific client. They had a big retail client and they would have like 100 starters after the pay run opened. So, and it was like, well, they don't want to bring them in manually every time. So that button says, right, go and look, make sure I've got everybody that I need to. Yeah. Okay, so like the management reports and that, I just bring those over here. So look, I've got 372 pages of them. I won't go through them blow by blow. But as you can see, there's quite a wide range of sort of reports here, and as part of the process, obviously, we can send you over sort of sample reports and that and stuff. I mean, there are.
Dave's already done that for me.
Oh, is he? Okay, yeah. There are pages
well
and pages of this. Are there any other things? I'm sorry, guys. I have to run away in a moment because I've got. I'm manning a food bank this morning at 11:15, so I've got to run away. So, but is there anything else that you want to say?
Mark, if we do go ahead with this, would you be providing us with training?
If you request it, I can. Yes.
Okay, because I'm kind of thinking if there are any bits and pieces, obviously after your work that you did with me in Optimus. It would be great to work with you again. So
that's.
And I kind of think if there are any issues that pop up in the report section, you'd be able to assist and help build and straight away. So.
I mean, you could put in a request for that, and generally, I would say 99 times out of 100, that's fine. Unless something dramatic happened in between, provided I was aware of when it was likely to happen and that and stuff, I can make provision for it.
Okay, great, thank you.
So is there any other areas in particular that you want to see? Do you want to see a quick report, right? Do you want to see anything like that? Or I say,
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So if there are any new reports, like for example, we have gender report that needs to be put up on the website every year. Is that something that we can generate from the system?
Yeah, is that the gender pay gap reporting you're talking about?
Yes, the gender pay gap report. Yes, that's correct.
So as we're setting up our elements here on our pay components like this, on each one here, you've got options here about gender pay gap reporting and how you want to treat them. Okay, so basically, as you set your system up, you put that in there, and there is a area, and I kind of dredge the memory bank now for where I run it from. But basically, I can then go in and run my gender pay gap report. There it is, gender pay gap reporting. So I can generate the lists and then calculate out my statistics from a gender pay gap.
Brilliant.
Super.
I didn't
Okay.
know about that feature.
Yeah. So that's all in there. And likewise, now there's this new one, isn't there? The executive pay gap reporting. Is it the executive? Is that from this year as well? This is an older release I've got on here, but there's also the executive pay gap reporting stuff and that. So if it's legislative, it will be built into Payroll as standard. Okay, so look, if you want a much more in-depth demonstration, I say over the next couple of weeks, if you want to go through things in a lot more detail, I'm more than happy to spend a couple of hours going through it with you guys, if that would help. I say sorry, I'm just a little bit time restricted this morning, but with and I realise I think you've got the international bit to cover as well, haven't you? But does that give you kind of a flavour of it to start with?
Michelle?
Yes, I think it was very helpful. From my end, this is Pratibha. I think it's fantastic. I would like to hear from Michelle also.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that, Pratibha. I've followed it really well. Thank you very much, Mark.
That's all right. No worries. I say, if you need to go into more detail, if we want to go in depth, look, I can talk about this for hours. So if you want to kill a few hours while we're all locked in, then by all means, feel free, and we'll go through things. If you've got scenarios you want to generate and that, I'm more than happy to build those with you. All right. So
okay, great.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Amazing.
Okay,
Thank you
guys.
so much,
Thank you, Mark.
That's all right. No worries.
Thank you.
I'll catch up with you later, Dave, and nice to speak to you guys. And I'm sure hopefully I'll speak to you soon. Yeah. All right.
Thank you kindly, mate. Have a good one. See you later.
Cheers, bye. See you later. Bye. Bye.
Right, guys. So do you want to take this sort of opportunity to ask any questions surrounding the UK payroll before we move on to the international side?
None from my end.
No?
None from my end at the moment.
Perfect. So internationally, so I can see in the corner I've got the initials CG, which is my colleague Chris Green. So he might be there. Otherwise, he'll join us shortly. What sort of questions did you want to go through from an international perspective?
Right, okay, so when it comes to the international, it's how will we send in the data? Will we have like a client relation manager?
Exactly, yeah. So you'll have your own dedicated point of contact, so a payroll manager based in Chichester, who you will send all your changes through to. So they'll be your one point of contact, and they'll be liaising with all the relevant countries on your behalf. They will then produce all the management reports and send you what you need and send you your funds requests as well. So we'll say to you, okay, your payroll for this month is going to cost this much for all of the employees. You will send us one amount. We do all the currency conversions and then send it out to the employees and all the tax authorities and take our fees from that as well.
Right, okay. So if we need to get hold of the ICP very urgently, we'd have to go through to our relationship manager, or we could go straight to the ICP and say...
You would typically go straight to your payroll manager, so that would be your one point of contact. It's very rare that our clients would talk directly to the in-country provider, although I'm sure it's not unheard of. Okay.
So what is the turnaround time for the manager to kind of get back to us with an urgent query?
That is a question I don't know. So I don't know if Chris is there.
Hi, guys.
Hello. Hi, Chris. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. How is everyone?
Good, thank you.
Good. General queries, we usually like to get responses within 24 hours period. Usually it's much sooner than that, but we'd like to say 24 hours just in case, depending on time zones, things like that, it can cause a little bit of a delay. And then standard reporting, we normally allow us 3 working days for reporting, just in case there's like questions and queries. And then again, time zones can play a little factor as well.
Okay. And
so where is a client manager seated? It's going to be in UK or?
Yeah, so we're entirely UK based. We're in Chichester, so that's where your international payroll manager would be, Chichester, which is sort of near Southampton.
And in case you need to reach out to them, we can directly give them a call, email ID, or is it a ticketing system?
Yeah. All payroll managers within the team have direct dials, so they're contactable straight away. They've all got voicemail inboxes, email addresses, and I think just going back to one of your previous questions regarding the input, we like to keep it as bespoke as possible. You know, we like to work around you as a business, and you know, we'll happily work with you as best as we can, so you provide all of the changes in the format that you feel comfortable in, whether that's through an email, some kind of portal. You know, we have some clients that use like Dropbox and other services like that. We try and customize it to adapt to how you like to do things, to make it as easy as possible for you.
okay, great. So this payroll manager of ours, obviously with like other bureaus and things, there's like a head count, isn't there, of how many people that they can look after at any one time. Do you have the same? Yeah, obviously I understand they wouldn't be looking after just us, they'd be looking after 300 other employees.
So
do you have like a limit?
So yeah, all payroll managers do have a limit to ensure that there is they have got the capability to be able to deal with any questions and queries and the employee counts based upon your payroll. So there should definitely be no issue with a payroll manager saying that they're unable to help you because they're overworked, because that's been factored into the type of clients that they handle to make sure that they've got the time sufficient that you need to be able to help with anything that you've got.
Okay. So do you have a rough idea of what that ceiling is?
So we don't base it so much on an employee count. We base it on a payroll basis, on a payroll count. So usually most payroll managers handle between about 80 to 90 sort of payrolls, as in like country payrolls. And that's because that's the way that we find easier, because although we do get quite a lot of questions and queries, because the actual payroll manager who you'll be dealing with on a day-to-day basis doesn't actually process the payroll, an employee count is not really the way that we found it the best way to calculate the capacity for that payroll manager in terms of how many clients that they handle. It's always based on a per country basis, and that's how we've managed to find it works best.
Okay, great. And does that country manager do any checking? So obviously they send it off to the ICP, it comes back. Do they then check our data against what the ICP is input, and then once they're happy, send it through to us? Yes.
So the payroll managers do internal checks before sending it on to yourselves, and quite often, if there's something wrong, we'll go back with the team. We'll make sure that if there's anything incorrect, we'll get that rectified before sending it across to yourself.
Okay, Pratibha, do you have any questions?
So how is the data input into the system and then the ICP pulls it out from FMP system? Is that how it works?
So it all depends on how you like to send the data. So, you know, in some cases where possible, all the information is imported straight into the software in some of the countries. In others, some of it, depending on how complex it is or how many employees you've got on the payroll, might just be manually entered. But it always usually goes through some kind of cross-check with another colleague and with the payroll manager before going to yourself to ensure accuracy in all of the input.
And do we get visibility to who are the ICPs working for us for all these countries?
Yeah, we can provide that information. Like Dave did say, on rare occasions, we do sort of potentially allow some direct contact there, depending on the type of queries or the urgency of the situation. We do sort of understand that always necessarily, everything going through your day-to-day contact payroll manager, it doesn't work. But as a general whole, we always do like that the payroll manager is copied in, so at least they can sort of record and know exactly what's going on, because I think the worst thing that we get is if we missed out communication and we don't know what's happening when things may arise in the future, we weren't aware of things that happened in the past, and then it can cause problems when we're trying to rectify situations and we don't know all the facts regarding the situation.
Okay. Thinking if I have any other questions.
What is just
so for the countries that we are looking at, sorry.
No, you go.
The countries that we are looking at, I'm not sure which other countries that you have considered, but are all the reports going to be in English, or it's going to be in local language?
It's going to be in local language, I'm afraid. Majority of the countries that we work with, it's not an option for them to be in English. They have to be in the local language for that country. But what the payroll managers can do is they can, the first time you receive the reports, they can walk you through everything. And in some cases, we are able to provide translated like copies of a payslip that you can refer to when you're checking some of the information. But what we usually tend to find is once we've explained the layout and how the payslip works, you can quite easily pick out all the figures that from your changes that you send us to be able to match them back up to the reports as well. So
because
I know
our team is going to be in Gloucester office. Obviously, they may not be very familiar with the different languages that we're talking about. So we need to find a way out how they can handle these reports. And are there standard reports for ICP and FMP, or there will be a set of standard reports that you'll be giving us, right? So how's that managed? You club with what they have, or you have your own standard reports?
So the standard reports are what our ICPs have, and so on a monthly basis they will always remain the same, and they should always be in the same format. So again, when you're sort of checking the reports yourself to make sure you're happy, you should easily be able to see where all the figures are coming from and how they are calculated into the system with the reporting, all the way down to the exact amount that we're requesting from you on a monthly basis.
Have an example.
And the system that Mark just showed. Sorry, go ahead, Lindsay.
Sorry, Pratibha. I was just saying, is there obviously like a GL or some kind of finance report that you can send? Obviously, not any real financial data, but like a copy of, so that we can have a look and see whether it's something that we can work with for a couple of the countries.
So we can provide GLs in that respect. We can pull together the information to put it more into a centralized sort of format across the board for all the countries. That's not a problem.
Do you have any examples that you can send through of how that's going to look?
I can have a look for you. I can definitely put something together. That's not a problem. I can work with Dave on that one to get that done.
And do you have any UK companies that are using you for your international side that we can, check your references out on and, contact them and ask them questions?
We do. I personally don't deal with sort of like the testimonials and referrals, but again, that's something we can definitely look at and try and sort out for you.
We tend to do references at a point where we're about to go to contract. So let's say subject to references going well, then we're going to go to contract stage. So what we don't want to do is be wasting our existing clients' time when it's not that far down the line yet. So we like to wait till we're literally on the cusp of you saying yes, let's go ahead, before obviously we sort those references out for you. But it's certainly something we can look at for you. There's a few different options we can put in place, and hopefully get some calls set up for you.
Yeah, I mean, because I've dealt with you from the UK side of things, I know how it works. I know the pitfalls we're going to face, whereas for the Europeans, I'm going blind. So I'm more than happy to recommend FMP from the UK side of things, but I don't know. The relationship we have at the moment, we have a manager that we go to, and they don't get back to us as quick as we like. So it's quite interesting to see, people that are actually using your
Absolutely.
your system.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame you at all. It's obviously there's a lot of countries in there, and you want to be sure before signing on the dotted line. So, yeah, absolutely. When we get to a point where you yourselves are sort of saying, okay, subject to references, we are looking to proceed, then we'll have that conversation. We'll get some calls set up for you.
Okay, great.
If you don't mind me asking, what sort of response times are you currently receiving then with your current dedicated payroll manager?
Well, they allow us to go and speak with the ICP, but the problem that we have is, so for instance, last Thursday we needed to make an employee a leaver in Spain, and then we needed to make a payment to them. So they said, okay, we're going to charge you an hour's work. Okay, great. How much is that charge? Okay, well, you need to ask your manager. And the manager came back to us 2 or 3 days later to say, oh, the charge is €60. And we were like, okay, but we needed that when it was really important 3 days ago. So it's things like that where we have really important queries that say, so-and-so's left in Spain, we need to pay that payment in the next 2 days. We need a really quick turnaround like that. So
yeah, wow, that is quite a large gap from sort of raising the first query and then getting a response back. Like you said, we're very transparent in terms of our line management as well. So, for example, myself as a team leader, if you had an urgent query and you sent a message to the team and you couldn't get hold of them, then you can definitely raise that to me, and I can escalate that and get that solved on as soon as possible, without having to sort of go through across a 2-3 day period just to even get a quote for the work done.
Okay, great. So obviously I know that you're saying at the moment it's 24 hours.
Yes, I mean 24 hours is that we allow that because obviously like time zone differences. When we're working with some of the countries, more the other side of the world, like we're talking like Australia, sort of like Japan, Singapore, those sorts of things. Unfortunately, by the time we're sort of starting and they're finishing, and you're sort of trying to raise questions and queries and try and get things sorted, it's not necessarily a quick turnaround. When we're talking about sort of the European countries, then there's definitely
like an hour, 2 hours difference in some places.
There is more of a same day response, and sometimes we like maybe just sometimes depending on the time of the month and how busy we are, there can even be maybe only like 20 minutes in between those pieces of communication. All of our in-country teams that we work with know how important it is to make sure that all the queries are responded to regarding payroll and urgent things like that, especially regarding, like you said, like leavers in Spain, which is quite important to make sure everything's done on time.
Are we looking at the costings now, or is it something that's going to come later?
I've
provided the full proposal.
Yes, we do have the full proposal. I've shared that. If that's something that you want to talk about, then we can ask Michelle to leave the call and go from there if you like. Or
yep, no problem.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yep. Thanks, Michelle.
Lindsay, to be fair to you, I don't think I've gone through the costings in detail. But I think that's something we can do probably today, and then over the weekend I'll sit and do a little bit of deep dive into the numbers that they have given. But I frankly speaking, I've not looked at the proposal.
Yeah, that's fine.
So just, I mean, I haven't even asked these questions. For the UK and for your international payrolls, what is your current process? I assume you're outsourced currently for your international?
Yes.
Who's that to?
Well, it depends. It's various people in various countries.
Okay.
So, yeah, but again, it's supposed to work where we go to Teresa, who is our account manager, who's based in America, and obviously for Pratibha, who's based in India, you know, her day is completely over before America kind of gets started. So this was one of the issues.
Someone closer to home.
Yeah, somewhere a bit more local would be good. We like to be able to go straight to the ICP with some of the queries, because we found the payroll knowledge necessarily isn't there to assist. So that would be another thing. Obviously, I take it these are fully CIPP qualified payroll managers that have experience with dealing with these countries. And obviously, if it's 80 to 90 countries that they're dealing with, they're going to have a pool of questions that they've been asked a million times, so they can come back with the responses.
What about the UK? What are you doing for the UK at the moment?
It's gone to a bureau who's based in Ireland.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it was in-house originally with a company called ADP, and then we're looking at bringing it in-house again, just from the fact of if you get a system set up correctly and it's worked with, if one of the directors says, I need a report on this, I can go, yes, I can do that immediately for you. Whereas, like you say, a 3-day turnaround with other things, it's a bit more like, yeah, you can have it, but you can't have it for like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, so the part managed solution there will work really well. Obviously, Michelle's still on the call. Did you want to go into costings, or do you want to hold off and let Pratibha have a look over the weekend?
Yes, if we can hold off, and then we can obviously come back with any queries, any questions, and then kind of go from there, see where we are with things.
Is there any other questions or queries you want to go through while we're on the call?
I'm sure.
You go for it, Pratibha. You go. Yeah.
No, I just want to say, I know that, and and especially this comes from our experience, that there is the code that you give, but over and above that, we're seeing a lot of these charges that are coming in. So if there are, and there might be some ad hoc runs, can you possibly give us a standard costing for that for an hour? And I don't know, I mean, sometimes it's very hard to say, is it an hour's work or 2 hours work? So if there's an ad hoc run or some calculations that we need for a lever, how is it handled right now? Is it just taken as a flat rate, whichever country? How do you handle those?
Do you know what? So I've not been asked that before. I do apologise. Chris or Jenna, is that something, I mean, do you know, is that something we need to go and take offline and then come back to with sort of an answer to that? I don't actually know whether we have a flat rate for, like you say, ad hoc runs or ad hoc sort of work.
That becomes down to be more country specific. So, for example, regarding sort of starters and levers, there are set prices that in some countries that we use in order to process the starters and levers onto the payroll. When it comes down to more just general ad hoc work, advice, and reporting and things like that, that's all just usually charged on an hourly basis fee. So, like I said, once we've sort of explained to you the hourly rate, that rate will remain the same when you get more and more queries or you have more issues. So we'll literally just quote to you a time that's going to take, and then obviously if you've then got the fee already to be able to work out, or we can tell you again, that's not a problem, just for clarification.
Okay.
And UK and international, these are going to be handled separately, right? Or is it because it's for UK, it's a system. And I remember Lindsay saying that we can convert into services with enough notice given to you. Is that something possible? And does that just go into the responsibility of the payroll manager who's handling rest of the countries? How does that work?
Yes, so for the UK, you would still have a dedicated point of contact. So our UK bureau is based actually near me, so near Hawley, or in Hawley near Gatwick Airport. So your UK point of contact would be there, but obviously most of the process is done by yourselves. That person would be responsible for payslip distribution, reports to HMRC, back file submission, lots of back-end administration. If you switch to a fully managed service, you would then have the choice. So you'd probably want to keep talking to that same payroll manager, but you have the choice as to whether you want to talk just to the person in Chichester who would cover all of your payrolls and they relay messages to your UK point of contact, or if you want to talk to both. So you could talk to your international payroll manager in Chichester, and then you could talk to a UK, or you could just talk to the one in Chichester. It's up to you. But for part managed, I'd certainly recommend having 2 points of contact, one for looking after your UK, one for looking after your international. But all FMP.
And they look after the GLs as well, don't they? The payroll managers.
Yes, absolutely. So any bespoke reporting we would provide to you and send out as part of your standard management reports. Obviously, you're welcome to write up and produce your own management reports from the system. But if there's anything bespoke that you want them to produce as part of the service, we can do that as part of the part managed service.
Yeah. So I think Pratibha was talking about if anything happens to me or Michelle, we get hit by buses outside of the office.
Yeah.
And then we kind of go, right, okay, we need to switch very quickly to, we send you the information and you do it for us, and then someone will check it.
Yeah, that's happened. Yeah, absolutely. So the work is still being double checked and looked at by your payroll manager on a monthly basis in the UK. So we could easily just take a backup and produce the gross to nets ourselves. So we'd just have someone on your end just send over the changes, and then your payroll manager would just make the input anyway. They're used to running fully or part managed services, so not an issue at all. We could easily, as long as, I don't know, we get a couple of days, we know, okay, this month we're having to do it fully managed as a one-off. Here's a charge for that. We'll run it as a full service for you.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yes,
That's
yes.
a nice concept which I've not seen before.
We like to say if they've won the lottery and decided just to leave suddenly.
Yeah, that's a better analogy than me getting hit by a bus. I'm gonna lead with that one. So, Pratibha, if I win the lottery, then you know that everyone else can get paid. Okay.
What I'm going to do is, today my intention was to have a look and feel of the system that you have, get an overview of how FMP works. I'm just going to look into some of the challenges that we have been facing in the last 1.5 years, and probably have a few more questions coming your way. I think I just want to make sure that some of the issues that we are currently facing, it's not just taking it from here and giving it to FMP. It should be like I have a resolution for some of these problems that the payroll team is facing. So,
and if we,
so what?
Yeah, I was going to say, and if we did kind of get in, get into a deal with you on this, I would definitely want Mark on the training and the reporting. Definitely that would be a deal breaker if he wasn't attached to it.
Absolutely. Make sure that happens for you. That's absolutely fine. Like you said, 99 times out of 100, if he's requested, then he'll attend. Mark's been, I think, using Payroll for approximately 20 years now.
Yeah.
He could have talked about it for 10 hours or so. He knows the system inside out. That was a very quick sort of rush through just to show you the main features of the system. But he can really go in depth. And as I'm sure you've seen, the training he does provide is brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And if we wanted to look at moving some services, obviously it's not a good idea to move 11 countries at any one time. Did you have rough timescales in place of when we could look at, moving? Ideally for the UK, I'd want 2 parallel runs.
Yeah. The UK, yeah, we can do that. And I mean, as long as it's any time after May, I think because it's part managed, I'd be pushing for sort of June, July go live.
Okay.
To do potentially if you want April and May parallel, or you could have May, June parallel go live in July, whichever makes you guys comfortable. The international, we can do it on a phased approach. We can start off with 1, 2, 3 countries at a time, and they typically would take, Chris, am I right, sort of anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks to implement a country? Okay, Chris might have just had to dive off for a second.
Oh, sorry. I had my
right.
microphone on muted, so I was just talking to myself. Go on, Jen. I'll let you take this one, seeing you started speaking now.
No worries. I was just going to say, sorry, hello everyone. I'm Jenna. Sorry, I've been sneaking in the background there. So it really is country depending in terms of lead time. We can certainly send across for each country, but 4 to sort of 6 or 8 weeks, depending on the location, would probably be roughly where we're at. I would definitely recommend a phased implementation. As you say, it's quite a lot of countries. So we'd want to kind of focus on maybe 3 at a time maximum, just so we can kind of get everything ironed out and focus on like 3 at a time rather than just going all guns blazing all at once, just so that we can make sure everything's all up and running smoothly for you, really.
Yeah, okay. But for UK, we could be up and running by as soon as June, July, potentially.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, potentially even May, but like you said, if you want 2 parallel runs, I'd probably definitely recommend doing June, so you can parallel April and May.
Yeah, I kind of think let's get it set up correctly, because I know we don't have a large payroll, especially across the entities. So maybe we could look at switching, some of the smaller ones, getting those exactly where we need it to be. Like you say, phased in. I know that our provider's got a hard deadline of 30 days, but I'm sure they're not going to want to miss out on the business if we start doing phased.
Are you talking about just the UK at the moment?
Yeah, UK and France are my main concerns, if I'm completely honest, because obviously UK we're going to be bringing in house. So we got 4 entities in the UK, so it would be a case of I'd want to make sure that we've got that in nice and settled, but obviously.
Yeah, would you? I mean, of those 4 entities, I mean, our plan would be to have them all at the same time, all 4 of those UK entities.
Okay.
And all onto the part managed service, because it would be pointless to do sort of 1 or 2
That's fine then.
and have them separately. So we do that all as a one-er.
Okay, that's fine.
International, yeah, with France obviously in particular, that could be one of the first 3. So you would have France and then 2 other countries as well.
Yeah, okay.
The international implementation.
Okay, perfect. Pratibha, how does that sound to you?
Sounds good. So, can you give an overview of where FMP is located? Is this a US-based company or it is a UK-based?
We're a UK-based company, founded in Chichester, UK. Like I say, that's where Jenna and Chris are typically based, and then yeah, that's where your dedicated point of contact would be.
And Dave, you and Chris, both of you are from the sales team, or is one of you from the operations?
So I work in the sales team. Chris is a team leader who looks after some of our international payroll managers. Jenna, remind me, what's your role? Sorry.
I'm sort of more of the projects and processes side, but at the moment I'm covering for the operations manager for international. He's just out of the business at the moment, so.
Okay, great, thank you.
I'm the annoying sales guy, yes.
And the payroll manager, I know Lindsay asked this, but I'm just reconfirming. They are trained, certified payroll professionals, right? Or they're more of a client managers?
So for the UK, out of the 36 payroll managers, I think 17 of them have gone through the CIPP qualification. We put through 2 on a yearly basis. On the international side, do any of you guys have sort of any formal qualifications, Jenna or Chris?
So the team that you would be liaising with, we are kind of like your coordinators, as it were. So although we won't have any qualifications, the in-country teams are obviously dedicated for that location and are experienced in that location. So although we don't personally have the qualifications, there should be people within our in-country teams that will. And it would obviously be related to that specific country rather than CIPP, which is obviously more UK based.
Okay, and do they speak the language? Obviously, I appreciate not all of the languages, but do they communicate in local language?
They speak English, yeah, they do.
So do they speak like French, German?
The in-country providers will speak English to liaise with the UK point of contact.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah,
there are some members within our team that do have second languages that we can fall back on if we've got some issues. But the majority consensus that all of our teams that we work with have got a very good understanding of English and sort of communicate with us on an English level rather than us trying to then have to like use Google Translate or find someone who can speak the local language.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Lindsay, you may want to look at the reporting thing because I know finance was very keen on having English reports, and if we are going to have reports in different languages, I think that could be a challenge. So we may want to review that once, especially with finance.
We'd like to see some reports. I think Chris is going to get some over so that we can review. I should imagine as well, it's kind of like changing the template that it comes over, Chris. Is that what we would ask our payroll manager to do?
So we've got some of them a bit of both. So some of them are literally the exact same payslip you'll get, but an English version of it. Some of them are more like sort of handwritten, where we've actually taken the time to break it down, analyze it, all the abbreviations, put an English one next to it so you can sort of see exactly how it's all broken down and how it works. And then we scan it in and sort of then give you a copy so you can always refer back to it. It just depends what the system allows us to do in each individual country in terms of being able to sort of either, like I said, manipulate the payslip and provide an English translation, or if we've had to like go away and actually produce one at a later stage in time.
The payslip for me isn't the important thing. It's the actual reports, the Excel files that will come out of the system and be sent to our finance team. So the provider we're using at the moment, I don't know whether they do it manually. I think they do, from a call that I've had with them a couple of years ago. They actually put the data into their own templates and kind of give us those Excel sheets. So is this something that our payroll manager would be able to do, kind of give us?
Yeah, it's definitely something
as a one-time activity, I was saying, at least as a one-time activity, if you can make sure that all the reports, if a local language plus English, if it's there, then it's fine. Because right now, even for France, we've been trying to get English reports because we wanted, even our finance team, most of them sit in UK office and they prefer to have English reports. And we've been asking them, and our current vendor's been working on this project to get us English reports. So I don't want to start from, again, from first to try and get reports. So if there's something that you can do, local language plus, like you said, if they could just have that as a standard report where there's the local language and the English translation for each of those columns, it's fine. And I'm also curious to know, like a country like France, do you still give reports like gross to net report?
So like the gross to net is definitely something we can do, whether that's something that is generated automatically from the system, or some of our clients, they like a collaborated report across all countries, so they can have one Excel spreadsheet which has like a gross to net for all countries and all employees on the same spreadsheet that they like to have and refer back to. Again, this is something we just like, we could bespoke it as much as we can around the requirements of what you want to achieve. Again, I think I understand that, you know, you're feeling really strong about having the reports in English, but, you know, I think one of the challenges we have, which obviously I want to be upfront about, is the fact that the legislation is usually that the payslip has to be in the local language. So whereas, you know, some software might accommodate us being able to manipulate it to produce an English copy, is again the software that we're using from the team is like they've outsourced the software. We receive updates on an annual basis regarding like new tax years, things like that. So if the software doesn't allow it, then it sort of restricts us in how we can manipulate it to give it to you, which is why sometimes we have to maybe produce like a manual sort of written overview of what the translations are.
Makes sense. Okay, we'll go country by country and see where those challenges are, and then figure a way out.
Yeah, that's definitely the best approach to take, is to sort of take each country individually, and then we can sort of work with it and sort of show you exactly what we can do in order to try and make it work for both yourself and us.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And some of these international countries, I know you said you'd like to go in phases with 3 countries at a time, but there might be standard reports, customized reports that, you know, the ICP need to prepare. So with keeping that in mind, generally, what's the average time that you see in completing the implementation? Like, for example, let's say a country like France or Germany.
It can be anywhere between 4 to 8 weeks, depending on complexity.
Oh, okay. You mean your team could get the customized reports in 4 to 8 weeks?
Yeah, it depends on the complexity of particular reports that you require from that in-country provider. Jenna, Chris, are you aware of any sort of particular bespoke reports taking longer than that?
I think it just depends on your exact requirements and what work is involved on our side. So it probably would need to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. Also, the timescales, as Dave mentions, 4 to 8 weeks, we have to kind of consider processing the payrolls as well. So obviously anything like that, although we appreciate it is important, if we're at peak payroll time, then obviously we would need to prioritise processing the payrolls. So it really depends on the requirement, what exactly you need, what work is involved and how complex it is. So it would be kind of quite difficult for us to say at this stage until we know a little bit more about the bespoke reporting that you need, and we've sent it across to our own country team to sort of assess and review, and then they would obviously provide sort of a rough time scale.
So what we can do then, we can speak with our finance team. The thing is, we've kind of kept finance out of this at the moment. We don't want to spook them into thinking that we're, you know, changing immediately with a hard-nosed deadline. So we can kind of get them on board when we kind of go to the implementation kind of phase, and then speak with them about their requirements. We can share the reports. Obviously, you'll have to see the information that we're going to be processing. So I suppose at that point, that's when you guys can look at it and say, no, this is going to need a bit more. Yeah, this is a very standard report, that type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Any other questions?
That's all from my end. No, I think that's all I had.
Lindsay, you all good?
Yeah, all good for me. Thank you.
Perfect. As I said earlier, obviously this has been recorded, so I'll stop the recording shortly and then send it over to you guys. It'll probably be a link because it was an hour and a half recording. That'd be quite a large file to send over. So I'll see what I can do there for you. Obviously, I'm always available if you need anything. I've got a couple of things to do. So look at example general ledgers to send over. References, let's talk about that. I think as we get further down the line. and we'll get those booked in for you, and an hourly rate for international work as well, so bespoke international work. I'll see if I can get that confirmed as well for you and get that over to you. Is there anything else that you want me to do in the meantime?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Yeah, nothing from my end too.
Great. Okay. Well, let's leave it there then. Thank you all very much for your time. Chris and Jen, I really, really appreciate you joining as well and helping out. And I will catch up with you all soon. Lindsay, shall we agree to, once I've done this, I don't know, give you a call at some point next week to check in, see how we're getting on?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, have a great long weekend all, and I'll speak to you soon.
Okay, take care, guys.
Okay,
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Have a